It is May 24th, 2026. I've just watched Novak Djokovic versus Giovanni Mpetshi Perricard in the first round, and I will be reviewing that match in a while. So if you would like to watch that match first before returning for the review, please do so in 3, 2, 1. Spoilers ahead. In a while, though. So, in 2022, Rafael Nadal beat Novak Djokovic, avenging his defeat to Djokovic the previous year in the quarterfinal stage, after which Nadal went on to win his 14th and final Roland Garros. In 2024, Novak Djokovic, after recently winning the Olympics in Paris, lost in the third round to Alexei Popyrin. You can attribute that to a number of factors. I think a lot of those would be understandable too, and not just excuses. Other than those two instances, Novak Djokovic, dating back to Wimbledon 2021, Australian Open 2021, has made the semi-final or better of every single Grand Slam tournament he has been a part of. That is 18 Grand Slams, not counting the 2 Grand Slams that he was not allowed to partake in without taking the jab, the COVID jab. So that would be Australian Open 2022 and US Open 2022. The tournaments being won by Nadal and I believe Alcaraz, respectively. So leading into this event, the context is, after supposedly completing tennis, technically speaking from a trophy cabinet perspective, Djokovic has won everything there is to win. So it is true from that perspective. After doing that, after doing everything he wanted to do in the sport, Novak Djokovic lost before the quarterfinal stage at a Grand Slam in 2024. Now, it is difficult to stay motivated after that, no? Your main rivals, your peers, your exemplary competitors from the same generation, or just in the same era, let's say. Federer, 6 years, probably constitutes a generation in some way. But when those people retire, it is difficult to stay motivated. I believe in 2023, Novak Djokovic stayed motivated after he lost that Wimbledon final against Carlos Alcaraz. So he needs that fire from somewhere. After 2024, after winning that match against Alcaraz again in Paris during the Olympics in the final, it would be difficult to envision a scenario where Novak Djokovic would stay that competitive heading into the events from that point onwards. And yet, here I am, Roland Garros 2026, and Novak Djokovic has made the semi-final stage or better. His results are as follows: Australian Open 2025 semi-final, Australian Open 2026 final, and the other events he has made the semi-finals every single time. A lot of people can cite competition being weaker or very concentrated at the top. It's not Novak Djokovic's fault. You can only play the players who are in front of you. Also, if one of the central competition players, that being Sinner and Alcaraz, if they had fallen before that stage, that would also not be Djokovic's fault. Just like it's not Djokovic's fault when Federer, Nadal, Wawrinka, or Murray, they fell before the quarterfinal stage due to any number of reasons. So, the achievement stands. After technically completing the sport, professionally speaking, Novak Djokovic, owing to his love for the game, for his engagement to the sport, for taking on somewhat of a mentorship role while still competing, he has made semifinals or better at every Grand Slam that he has participated in. Which brings us to the discourse coming into this event at the French Open. A lot of people believe that he is done now. Just like they believed he was done in 2024, when he did not win any majors. When he limped to the final of Wimbledon and lost while employing a very ridiculous serve and volley strategy, obviously not operating anywhere near his best against Carlos Alcaraz. They believed he was done then, and then he won the Olympics. People believed he was done then, and then he's made 5 straight semifinals, beating Sinner and Alcaraz at the Grand Slam stage. Now, no matter how you slice it, no matter what context you add there, a player in the twilight stage of his career, elite, not elite, especially if elite, if he beats other elite players in best of 5, being 16, 14 years older to them, that achievement is going to be much more impressive than if the younger elite player beats the older elite player. Because there is an expectation that there is physical wear and tear, and the access to your best level grows smaller the older you get. So, in a way, what I'm saying is that the younger elite player is expected to, and in many ways is supposed to beat the older player, elite or otherwise. So when the script is flipped, especially at the Grand Slam level, best of 5 competition, it is going to be very impressive. And that is not to say that Alcaraz or Sinner should be ashamed of their defeats to Novak Djokovic at Australian Open 2025 in the quarters for Alcaraz, and in the semifinals of Australian Open 2026 earlier this year for Sinner. They might have had a less than best day, and still over the course of 5 sets, they're in a way operating at a standard where it is predicted that they would find a way to solve the game of a 37.5 and a 38.5-year-old man. And yet, Djokovic prevailed in those matches. Does that mean he's better than them currently? No. The rankings tell us no. And also, from the game quality-wise, he can match them. Can he match them over the course of a best-of-5 match? Twice. He has proven yes. Now, are those instances going to be more and more rare as time goes by? Obviously, one would expect that too, which is why it's very impressive that he just beat the current world number 1 in 5 sets at the Australian Open. That is exactly why, even after Novak Djokovic was off the tour due to injury reasons, shoulder injury, when he came back and expectations are low, I still do not find enough reasons to write him off completely. That is where my confusion comes in. Because there are people who are taking this camp mentality into everything. It just seems that their primary goal is to paint Novak Djokovic as done. Which makes me believe it's a good thing that he never listens to all that, otherwise his career would be done as early as 2021, after he lost to Medvedev in the US Open final, when a lot of people just said, okay, finally he's been humbled, he will never win another major, Nadal, Federer, yay, and all that. And it's not even about taking sides in that argument. It is just respecting the body of work that a professional tennis player has put up over the course of his 20-plus year career. And even recent results speak for themselves. A lot of people expected... Now I'll get more into the match itself, because I really believe that I wanted to get that conveyed in one way or the other before getting into the match, before getting into the first round match. Novak Djokovic versus Giovanni Mpetshi Perricard. A victory in 4 sets for the old man, for the resilient lion, in a way. And I have been one of those people who has respected this resilience more and more as time has gone by. If he was only in it for the trophies, he would have gone a long time ago, as previously mentioned, by attributing to his results and him completing tennis in a way. So he keeps coming back because he truly likes the sport, and it is really a privilege to see him problem solve on a tennis court. I watched this match from the second set onwards, the set that he won 7-5 after losing the first one 5-7. Now more about Mpetshi Perricard. I had seen this one indoor tournament where Perricard's serving prowess had been the major headline because he was so skilled at the first delivery that he was hitting second serves almost as fast as the first serve, something that had only been seen very rarely in times past. Since then, he's been inconsistent. Still, he's very, very young, so he has time to improvise. He has time to specifically target areas of his game that are clearly lacking. And those things become even more apparent in the battlefield that is a best-of-5 tennis match. The first set, the one that I did not really see, was close in some way because it's a shootout. Who can hold serve the longest and who blinks first in the tiebreak. That is the format that apparently was true for the first set and definitely was true for the second, the point from which I started watching the match. Mpetshi Perricard's serve is wonderful, of course. He was finding the serve at the right times. He did not allow even a single break point against the serve in the entirety of the first set. I know this because of stats that were highlighted. In the second set, Novak Djokovic needed 10 break points to win the game and break serve for the first time, and that was all that was required for Djokovic to win the second set and level the match. Now, Novak Djokovic has this habit of being in a position to be suffering, physically suffering. He is groaning once in a while, he's off balance, he's adjusting to the clay surface at Philippe Chatrier. Which is to be expected. I think that this is his first best-of-5 tennis match ever since the Australian Open. Well, that is obvious because it's the French Open. It's the only Grand Slam. No, it's his second clay match, competitive match, ever since he injured his shoulder in that match, I think at Indian Wells, against Jack Draper, if I'm not mistaken. So, he will play himself in. He needs to play himself in. In a way, competing against a serve-dominant player like Mpetshi Perricard is a blessing in disguise, or can be seen as such, because you're required to selectively assess and improvise areas of your game. For example, when Mpetshi Perricard is dropping bombs on your side of the court, you are trying to get the ball in play, and then react to the first shot after the serve from Mpetshi Perricard, which is usually a very hard hit from the forehand, or some serve and volley, which he sometimes does very well. And the statistics from the first set and my eyes tell me that Mpetshi Perricard was handling his own service very, very well, owing to his amazing first serve percentage, his ability to deliver first serves at break points, and also a very solid forehand. He was engaging in short rallies, as can be expected in this sort of match, again allowing Djokovic to get a measure of the court, to get accustomed to the pace of the court. Djokovic was nowhere near anywhere that he normally operates at from a game-level point of view. His shot tolerance was low, he was off balance very often, his movement was compromised, typical Novak Djokovic things, which he has to go through in order to find himself, his game, all of that. What I find to be concerning in general, knowing the levels that he can operate at and how he gets there, my primary concern is that he's just smiling too much. Now that might sound very strange. I believe that whenever he's too happy, he lives in that happy to be there spectrum, which is difficult not to occupy as a space mentally, because you are playing most players who could be young enough to be his son. But they're not, I know, it's what, 17, 18, 15 years. It's almost that way. So he probably, being a locker room presence, he has a cordial relationship, if not better, with most of these players. And then to face them, I believe it's more and more difficult for him to find that edge in his game. And yet he tries, and he's playing more and more to the crowd sometimes, the French Open crowd was very, very warm to him, and the lack of conflict. Djokovic has talked about this as well. He enjoys it more and more as he gets deeper into his career, which is to be expected, and yet in the moments where he has shined the most, even recently, has been when he has been doubted. Especially the press conference after the quarterfinals of the Australian Open this year, where the reporter asked that he phrased it a little bit poorly. I'm not sure whether he wanted to insinuate this, and Djokovic received the question as, "Oh, I'm never the one being chased. I'm always the chaser," referring to him being the third player, third man in the Big Three rivalry. Initially, Roger Federer being 5 and 6 years older than Nadal and Djokovic. He was dominating. Then Nadal came into the scene and dominated clay, and then extended his amazing performances on other surfaces. And Novak Djokovic, especially in after 2011, and yet even before that in 2008 and 9, even dating back to 2007, he was troubling them. So he was chasing those two, which is chronologically absolutely true. And yet now the reporter painted it as Novak Djokovic is always the chaser, insofar as he's chasing Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz at the top of the rankings, or he's chasing them to get to Grand Slam number 25. So Novak Djokovic was clearly a little bit slighted. I don't want to use the word disrespected, even though the comment can be interpreted as such, especially without clarification from the person asking the question. After that, Novak Djokovic showed up to play against Sinner in the semifinal, and he beat Sinner in the semifinal over the course of 5 sets. So while watching Novak Djokovic in the first 2 sets of this match, it was almost a case of, okay, he's happy, he's trying to wait for his chance, and wait he did. He had to wait a long time because Mpetshi Perricard was delivering bombs. I think I have it here somewhere. He saved a bunch of these break points. I think 4 out of 4 he made the first serve at break point, and he won the point. He saved those break points. Mpetshi Perricard saved those break points, and Djokovic's hitting got progressively better because he forced some rallies onto Mpetshi Perricard once he got the ball into play, and yet that was not the case in most of the break points. It took 10 break points for Novak Djokovic to finally win the second set. The rallies getting more and more common was a clear sign that Novak Djokovic was more comfortable on the court. This is a pattern of play that is observed when a very well-rounded player plays. The word is serve bot that a lot of people use. I would like to say a serve-dominant player, or some other terminology that suggests something similar, meaning a player who relies very heavily on his serve because of the very high quality of the serve, and yet it also implies that there are elements of the game that are lacking, that are not the serve. So, for example, when the serve level goes down inevitably, as it does for most players, at some point in a best-of-5 match, what do you have to rely on? For Mpetshi Perricard, it is only the forehand. The skill on the backhand is... You cannot say that he has a bad backhand. It's just very one-dimensional. Even his slice is not very, very puzzling. Federer, for all his weaknesses on the backhand side, especially at the higher above-the-shoulder shot, he still had a lot of variety. So it held up against most players and all players at certain instances, and yet that was the obvious hole in the repertoire for Nadal to exploit and for the very top players to target, if nothing else. Mpetshi Perricard has no dangerous slice. He has a very clean backhand technique, which allows him to hit some very, very picturesque, wonderful-looking shots down the line. The problem is, all those amazing shots that occur once in a while, they count for 1 point. And when his serve is not clicking, he's not able to get away with a lack of consistency on the backhand side. Sometimes the same with his forehand. When Mpetshi Perricard got more and more tired as the match went on, instead of topspin and building a rally, Mpetshi Perricard was busy hiding his backhand, running around the backhand, trying to prevent Djokovic from targeting the backhand. And the more he did that, the longer the rally went, because Novak Djokovic is playing himself in, getting better at the lull periods of matches, which is a signature for him, mentally resilient, the rallies are getting longer, and Mpetshi Perricard is getting a little bit anxious because he wants to complete the point, finish the point as soon as possible. His way to do that, if his serve is not helping him as much, is to pull the trigger on his forehand, to go for the winner. Sometimes he did. Some passing shots he was making, and yet it's not as high, as reliable a shot, even as Novak Djokovic's forehand. Novak Djokovic's backhand down the line. The best, if not one of the best, ever. So those weaknesses become glaring, or at least noticeable, the longer the match goes. Mpetshi Perricard also had some physical issues. I know he had some wrist issues at the beginning of the clay season. He was pulling at his thumb before receiving serve from Novak Djokovic at the beginning sections of the third set, which was the most one-sided set of this entire match, which Djokovic won 6-1. And there was no way you could predict that Mpetshi Perricard would pull himself back together after that, at least not very easily. And yet, that maybe it was a cramp, because he did feel better slowly. He needed to warm the wrist up again over the course of the third set, which was clearly a one-way train, and Novak Djokovic ran away with it. In the fourth set, Djokovic got an early break, if I'm not mistaken. The forehand was very, very strong. The rotations per minute on the topspin forehand were higher for Djokovic. The pace was higher. He found himself rushing toward the ball. The movement was better, as can be expected. Novak Djokovic problem-solving like a machine in his brain. He's calculating, he's checking the movement of Mpetshi Perricard. He dismantled Mpetshi Perricard in the third set, and he wanted to do the same thing in the fourth. He wanted to pounce when the opportunity arose, which is one of his biggest strengths, obviously. He was up a break because he broke Mpetshi Perricard in the first game of the fourth set, and yet he was careless. He let some of the opportunities go, which was probably the only weak section of the match that I saw from Djokovic after that period in the second set where he was not able to convert on any one of those opportunities for breaking Mpetshi Perricard's serve. It took him 10 break points, and I'm not counting the aces, because those are just credit to Mpetshi Perricard. Other than that, there were some instances where Djokovic was just inaccurate. He made some unforced errors. He committed some unforced errors. Same thing in the second game of the fourth set, where Novak Djokovic had I cannot say uncharacteristic, because it's almost ridiculous how much people like to look at his smash as his weakness. So in a way, you can say that his typical mistakes on the smash were unfortunately rearing their head in that game, which ultimately resulted in the match, in the set getting leveled at 1-1. And then I have some notes regarding the play here. Novak Djokovic was overdoing the drop shot. He misdirected the drop shot, and the match looked a little bit like the first two sets, where it became a shootout in some way because Mpetshi Perricard got his serve back. I think the wrist was looser. He was feeling his serve a little bit better. He was hitting aces. The speed on his serve was back, something that was missing in the third set, clearly hinting towards some discomfort that he was feeling, maybe in the thumb, maybe in the wrist. So the match got closer in the fourth set, which is good for the viewing audience, at least spectators, and for me as well. This was a match of styles, which is a good thing because you hardly get to see that anymore. Most rallies are just ground stroke grinding, and once in a while someone will come in for a finish at the net. So from that perspective, this match was following a very particular trend where you knew that even after losing the first set, if Djokovic's stamina held up, which it did, surprisingly, he was the more agile player, and that is discounting Mpetshi Perricard's wrist injury. He's not running on his wrist, right? So, energetic Djokovic. Moving better Djokovic. Smartness toward the latter stages of the match, obviously Djokovic. Experienced Djokovic, resilience Djokovic. So, it was not really surprising when Novak Djokovic broke again in the fourth set and served out the match. I think he broke at 4-2, and then he tried to break at 3-5 to win the match, but Mpetshi Perricard impressively held on, showed some grit there, and Novak Djokovic was able to serve it out, playing some of his most loose, and I mean loose in a positive way here, playing some of his most loose ground strokes, and measuring the pace of the ball, redirecting backhands down the line, and he expressed he exalted in a very expressive manner, which is characteristic to him. He's getting those competitive juices rolling again, which was very, very good to see. I just I hope that that continues. The competitive spirit is highlighted more and more as the tournament goes into the deeper stages, and my optimism can easily be broken, or no, maybe not the correct phrasing there. I might be incorrect to predict that Novak Djokovic needed this match and things are looking up. To my recollection, the draw is not exactly very forgiving for him. He has one of the tougher draws. No reason for me to believe that he would not be able to do it. Still, I mean, he could chart his way up to the match. I think he's playing Casper Ruud in the fourth round. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he loses the next match. And just from what I saw, considering this is the second clay match in the entire season that he has played, and he's returning from shoulder issues, knowing him, he would not play the way he did. He would not play himself in. He would not be patient. He would not be so jovial while technically losing at the beginning of the second set, which he was. He'd be more he'd be more concerned, which he was not. He was always in control of the proceedings because he has played so many matches against this style of player. And as I mentioned regarding Mpetshi Perricard, he could have the time and the tactical awareness. I think given the coach's intervention, there are some plays, some more patience, some mental fortitude which can be developed where he can look a little bit into problem solving if his serve starts to fail him. Against Novak Djokovic, you need that. Otherwise, Novak Djokovic is going to win the match. It's very, very, very obvious. Especially in the moments of the match where it could swing on its head anytime. Novak Djokovic is winning that match, I believe, 9.5 times out of 10, if not more. So it remains to be seen. Novak Djokovic continues to be the most compelling character in tennis, even though Sinner is the runaway train on a very legendary run. I will probably speak more about Sinner's recent achievements in some other video, time permitting. I'm back after a long time. This feels good. Yeah, I should be covering the tournament at least. Sinner and Novak Djokovic's matches. Might not be covering so much of Sinner's unless it is after the fourth round, which I believe he will easily get to. And I believe there will be some interesting, unexpected storylines that will come up in the coming times. I'm sorry, I was too close to the camera. It's late. So, yeah, remains to be seen. So far, so good. Welcome back to Novak Djokovic to the Grand Slam level. He has always been there. It's just good to see him back on court. Until next time, this is Lievi, and I shall see you again.